weeks ago, Brenda and her folks came to Enid and went on the Master Gardener's annual garden tour of Enid. And she came back and she said, we've got to go there on Oklahoma gardening. So today we're in Enid, Oklahoma, and we're going to show you 3 yards from the garden tour and just show you how beautiful gardens can be in north central Oklahoma. Today we're at the home of Kate Morrison. Kate is a master gardener and she's done a wonderful job. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Sue. How are you today?
Just fine. Good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Boy, this front yard is just gorgeous.
Thank
and of
you.
course, I think as I walked up, probably viewers noticed more than anything this beautiful blue atlas cedar.
Yes.
Tell me about this tree.
Well, we researched when the house was built and traced it back. It was planted probably in the early 30s. It was planted very small. It was small enough that the kids remembered playing and jumping over it. So they said that the tree was Daddy's pride and joy. So we met, in fact, the 3 girls that grew up in this house. We had them over and visited with them, and it was fun.
Yeah,
so.
well, I think it's got to be one of the largest ones in the state. It's just beautiful, and it's sort of a testimony to how good the soil is in north central Oklahoma. You see a lot of farms around here, and they grow healthy wheat, so they must grow good trees as well. Let's talk about your yard a little bit. A lot of people have an interest in having a cottage-type garden, as it were, in front of a cute older, small home. That's sort of the dream of a lot of gardeners. But you've done a fantastic job of putting the basic elements together. And I noticed that there is the original main sidewalk, but that you've also added little pathways. And how did you come upon your design?
Well, when we bought the house, there was nothing here. I mean, basically, and I'm a person that likes to be organized, so I've got the big piece of graph paper, and I started trying to figure out how to break it down, because as a whole it was just overwhelming and flat.
Yes.
And so I had read a lot about doing garden rooms and that kind of thing, and so I started on paper.
All right.
And played around with the pencil. It's a lot easier to erase it than it is to dig it back up.
Yes, oh, that's right. And planning is really the key in getting a design that you like. And Kate has used various hard surfaces around the garden. You've seen on Oklahoma Gardening in the past, we've installed walk-maker type rock pathways around the garden by using a little concrete frame. And Alan Jobs did a lot of that work on Oklahoma Gardening. And Kate, you've done that as well. But I like the stain that you've used on the rocks. It looks very natural. How did you get that appearance?
I went back and experimented. I used some exterior stains in earth tones, and crawled around on my hands and knees with a sponge and sponged that on, because I liked the walk-maker effect, but I didn't just like the concrete, and if you dyed it, it just didn't look natural.
Right.
So,
well, you've really achieved a natural appearance.
Thank you.
Along the edges, she has used natural stone, mixes of sandstone in some places and limestone in others. And it's interesting to me also that the fence across the front has an arch arching up, and you have future plans for that, right?
Yes, there's a arbor that goes over the front walk that has a seat on each side, and then the picket fence will continue on the other side, across the yard for part of the way anyway, so that...
Okay, well, even if you had just left it that way, though, if you look at the angles on your own house, and this has a nice peak roof on the front. When I was a kid, we called these elf houses. But anyway...
That's not what the roofer calls it.
But the way the fence curves up, it sort of echoes that same little angle, and it's a neat feature. Now, out in front, you have a nice mix of summer perennials, and something that I think a lot of viewers will notice is that she has a few selectrons, but in nice large clumps.
Yeah, we tried to plant, in groups to get a mass effect out of it. Some of the things out there, this is just like the second year for it, and some of them are just it's trial and error.
Sure.
If I put it in, and if I want to move it, then.
Well, and your basic color element there is that you want yellows, blues, and whites. So what all do we have out there that we're looking at?
There's the Russian sage, of course, and it's blooming a little bit early this year, and Rudbeckia goldstrom gives me a good, bright, strong, yellow. And there's some Yarrow, the pearl, out there. There's a couple of, Coronation Gold and Moonbeam Yarrow are out there. Then I've got a red Penta that we talked about. I think I'm going to find another place for that next year. It's not bad out there, but I think I'd like it, since it's a small area, I'd like it to not have quite so many colors.
Okay. Well, around the rest of the yard, you'll notice as John pans around that Kate has planted a lot of shrubs that are commonly found at local nurseries, but she's used them in very effective ways. Instead of just a single long line, rank and file, there are small groupings of them that help accent what else is there. She has a whole bed of lavenders, but nearby is an upright yew that sort of counterbalances the silvery gray of the lavenders with a dark green. Also out in front, she has some different perennials, and one are some that really like fairly dry conditions, and that's thyme. And you had to experiment with the mulches there.
Right, the thyme and the hens and chicks both. I had wood mulch down, which I've used a lot of places, and I was having a lot of trouble with things. It just looked like they were rotting out. So I took that out this year and replaced it with what they call well rock. It's a real tiny rock.
Gravel,
yeah,
some people call
right.
it that as well. And I
to
think,
see if that'll help.
Right, well, that's a real cultural lesson here also, is that use different mulches around a yard based on what the plants need, and make sure that you experiment a little bit. If one's not working, try a different one and see if that keeps the location a little drier or moister.
I've got where the lavender and the thyme are along the driveway too. I'm going to go back in with gravel there because I've had trouble with some of the thyme under the lavender getting too damp.
Okay, well, as we wrap up around Kate's yard, around the side yard, you have a beautiful raised bed garden for your vegetables. That's neat and tidy. You said you like things orderly, but in back also she's keeping her mints in check by using metal culverts upright and then rimmed with a piece of old garden hose.
Yeah.
But you could do the same thing with an old nursery can. Maybe it's gotten cracked on the bottom. Just cut the bottom out, sink that in, and put the mints in. And all over, there are a lot of clever ideas around Kate's yard. I hope you've enjoyed looking at them. And Kate, thanks for letting us take a peek.
Thank you for coming. I'm real honored.
Great. Well, next Brenda has another house here in Enid for you to see that also has some great gardening ideas.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.